How's it going, everybody? My name is Dermot Lushart. I am the president of Troop 6910, as well as the host of this podcast, Mom, Dad, I'm a Thespian, the International Thespian Society Troop 6910 Flagstaff High School podcast. Now, first of all, just want to say thank you again for listening to this podcast, listening to any of the episodes that you've listened to. That's fantastic. Thank you for following the Flagstaff High School page on Facebook, the Flagstaff High School Performing Arts page on Facebook, the Flag Eagle Arts page on Instagram, as well as the Flagstaff Student Council and Flagstaff High School pages on Instagram. One of the best things that has happened in the past couple of weeks is that we were able to be featured on that on the Flagstaff High School Instagram page. So if you haven't been able to check out those posts, go ahead and make sure that you do that. Make sure that you're continuing to tag all of the posts that you make with hashtag perform your art, hashtag creative flagstaff, all of that wonderful stuff. But this week we are very excited and very lucky to have with us the wonderful Gina Marie Byers and Sara Ryan from the theater company Fame in town. Most recently, you may have seen Fame as they performed Heathers. Otherwise, you may have seen them for Chicago or The Producers. But right now, they are mounting a production of Something Rotten, and I was able to catch up with them today to talk to them about how all of this craziness with COVID-19 has affected the rehearsal process of that show and what their plans are moving forward. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and move to that interview.
Hello. All right. So welcome, Gina and Sara. How are you guys doing?
Doing well.
Good. So, why don't you guys just both really quick introduce yourselves, just who you are and what you do at Fame?
I'll go first, I guess. I am Gina Marie Byers, and I'm born and raised here in Flagstaff. And with Fame, I am a director.
And my name is Sara Ryan. For Fame, I am a music director. And we have a couple of music directors, so I have one of them.
So why don't you guys talk just for a little bit about how Something Rotten and the casting process versus going into the rehearsal process has been affected so far by all of this craziness going on with all of the stay-at-home order, all of that kind of stuff.
Well, it's been an interesting challenge, of course, of going through as normally you everybody meets and gathers and has rehearsal. We were able to cast it and have auditions right before all of this happened, and so we got everything cast, and then promptly had to not meet, and so it's been an interesting challenge to watch, to come up with different ways and ideas of saying how do we rehearse, because we're going to need to figure out what have a show. And so just trying to have some different ideas of gathering and ideas of how do we blocking, for instance. It's easy to do rough blocking. So we've had a couple of rehearsals where we say, okay, these are your entrances and exits. I'm still playing with how do we the finer details of blocking and the specifics of I need you at this point on the stage, and because other people are at this other part of the stage, and I don't know. it's an adventure for sure.
It certainly makes things more difficult.
Yes.
Music is very challenging because, as I'm sure you all know, you can't really hear anybody else singing when you're on Zoom, or we're all kind of delayed, and so that's strange. So we're trying to figure out how to make music rehearsals a thing. We've been doing some recordings with the actual cast recording, but then singing different parts of the music along with that so that the kids can learn their individual parts. We've been talking about having a music rehearsal in a in a parking lot, perhaps, with having everyone in their own parking space, having a loudspeaker and seeing if we can do that. We can walk up and down the drive part of the parking lot and see if we can hear people singing. That might work. We're trying to
It would get all the practice in for projection, that's for sure.
Yes.
Definitely. So how has this, if at all, affected the way that you're thinking about staging or the final product? How has it affected in how you're imagining that in your mind? Just the last couple steps. Has it gotten to that point where you're even thinking about that yet?
I think that Gina has some awesome ideas of how we can stage this without ever being on a stage, if it comes to that. Or putting on the show on a stage with our limited cast and projecting it to people if we can't have an audience there. Maybe sending out, live stream of the show, just so we'd be able to share it with friends and family and everyone. So we're at least performing for somebody.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say too, the part for me that's it was interesting in listening to Sara talk on this when I was, there was definitely this emotion coming up for me in that, we don't know what that next step is going to be. In general, if we look at, the society as a whole, not just performance and theater, and we don't, it's not necessarily going to go back to the way it was, because there were pieces that weren't, in my opinion, weren't working. And so how is that going to affect gatherings in general, and how is that going to affect theater in particular, and then how is it going to affect Something Rotten specifically? And of course the final answer is I don't know. And depending on the day, there's some days I'm encouraged and hopeful and say, okay, we can do this. It's going to be great, and we're going to get done, and we're going to have all this amazing thing, and yeah, it's going to be kind of bumpy, but we can do it. And then there's other days that my heart just hurt because it is so much fun to gather and to build magic with theater. And so to think about it not happening how it has in the past, and that's been something that I've enjoyed, and not knowing what it's going to look like in the future is scary. And it's still exciting because say, okay, we can come up with something new, and who knows what that's going to look like. And at the same time, it's working through all of the emotions of unknowing, and and I still, in my head, I see in our theater space and saying, okay, I have people coming down the stairs and coming on the stage and coming in left or right and having interaction. I want them to have interaction at center stage, and then there's this other group that I want over at downstage right. How that all looks in my head, but ultimately it's like, so how do we make that happen? And I don't know. I don't know.
So
long answer to say I don't know.
That's totally fine. So shifting a little bit more towards like a personal side of it, how are you guys maintaining the drive to stay theatrical and the ability to stay theatrical? What are you guys doing to help do that in quarantine? And what advice would you have for some high school students who are hoping to maintain their theatricality, if you will, while we're all isolated from each other?
I think that it's so hard to stay positive during this time, and it's so easy to get depressed and just melancholy, and it's like, this is just bad. But there are things you can do. You can be really creative. You can work on singing by yourself. You can work on, if you have a piano, doodle around with the piano and You can write a song, you can try and do something else creative, write a story, dance around, be silly, put some silly song you wrote on the internet, I mean, on Facebook or whatever, just so that you get some feedback. I mean, it's a great place for feedback, but just so that you're sharing with somebody, hopefully you're making somebody else's day a little happier, because that always makes me feel better when I do that. But it is a weird time.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And my advice would be to really take this time to, take that risk of being outside of your own comfort zones. And, like Sarah was saying, put on some silly song that you normally wouldn't necessarily listen to or let alone dance to. And just partly release all of those pieces, that we hold on to. And then figuring out, dream bigger than just going, okay, if once we go back. So what if things were completely flipped? And, what would be the biggest dream that you could imagine? And see, and this is definitely time of kind of mind experiments and saying, what could this look like? And yeah, try things that you maybe wouldn't normally do. For instance, this week, I am supposed to be arriving sometime this week. I am supposed to be receiving a piano tuning kit, because I have an old piano that I've had, other piano tuners say, it's not really worth it having it, professionally tuned. And I was like, well, why not? So that's my piece that I'm going to be teaching myself, how to tune my piano, or at least clean it up so that I know what's going on inside of there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah, that's super cool. Have there been any like shows or movies or anything with so much like streaming stuff that we've been having either make itself more available or free during this? Has there been any shows or movies or TV shows that you have been streaming that you have thought have been like super fantastic examples of like, yes, that's great acting or that's great directing that you would want to turn people to if they're looking for something to watch?
We've been tuning in every week to Andrew Lloyd Webber's The Shows Must Go On YouTube. He's putting on one of his shows every weekend, and they're very familiar shows with Jesus Christ Superstar and Joseph and Phantom last weekend. But Phantom was really cool to watch that, because it was totally different than the movie that I've seen before that I didn't enjoy very much. But this was really neat. And Sierra Boggess, who is Christine in that Phantom, she was also Ariel on Broadway, and it was funny to see, little Ariel snippets come out of Christine every once in a while. And she was Christine long before she was Ariel, but it's interesting to see how an actress can change, but then kind of still be the same. You can still get little bits of her from both roles. So we've been enjoying that, and the Broadway HD channel. It's fun to watch things that you can't go see at the moment.
Yeah, definitely.
I have been watching really random things. A lot of foreign language stuff on Netflix, and the top two right now is Ragnarok out of Norway, and I really liked it because it tells a story of Thor, and it's totally not Marvel, which is really fun. It was like, okay, they did a really good job of the storytelling and character development. So I cared about what the characters, who they were and the pieces that they're holding. And then I think it was out of maybe out of Hong Kong. I can't remember now. But it's a Chinese drama called Legend of the White Snake. And it's this whole big, giant, epic, melodramatic love story that's ridiculous. and so good. It's so good. I just ended up watching the entire, however many episodes it was. It was really long, but again, it was interesting looking at stories from another cultural perspective. And, I get frustrated at some of the women and I'm like, oh, why aren't they, well, no, okay. And let's look at a different cultural mindset. And so I've been watching a lot of foreign language dramas, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I think just kind of wrapping up a little bit, is there first, would you be able to give us your planned dates and place and time for the shows of Something Rotten, so that our thespians can put them on their calendar, make sure that we're able to come out and see that? Please come see it. I'm playing Shakespeare.
Shakespeare!
Woo!
Yes, our plan right now is for the last weekend of July and the first weekend of August.
I think it's the last full weekend in July, which is starting the 24th. So 24th,
Okay.
25th, and then the second weekend will be July 31st, August 1st. Oh, okay.
All right. Well, is there anything else that, or is there anything else like Fame social media wise that you guys would like to plug? Where can we connect with you on Facebook and Instagram and all those good places?
Definitely on Facebook. I know that's being updated. And that's the only part that I know for sure. We need to start a TikTok one. Somebody.
We
have
should.
a Fame
That'd
TikTok.
be fun.
Right?
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Post little clips from rehearsal.
Yes.
We are in the works of planning a special little thing to put on Facebook, so people could keep their eye on that. We're going to try and put a song with everyone singing on there, like some other groups have done. So we're in the planning stages of that. A little Black Death for us all.
Well, awesome. Yeah, well, thank you both so much for joining me today. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you soon at rehearsal.
Thanks for having us, Dermot.
Yes, of course.
Thanks again so much to Gina and Sara from Fame for talking to me today. Yeah, make sure that you guys are following all of their exploits on social media, and make sure that you go and see that show. It'll be a good time. Speaking as an actor in that show, I think it'll be fun. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. Make sure to catch us every single week coming at you over on SoundCloud at Troop 6910, as well as on the Flagstaff High School Performing Arts Facebook page. Catch us every single week talking at your ears about theater, talking with various people in town, and yeah. Well, with that, good night, parting is such sweet sorrow. I'll talk at you next week.